Okay, good morning. It's always bad to speak after Bernd with my English. His English is much better than mine. However, the main point is just to bring the message over. Hopefully that's what I can do. My task is to give you just an introduction to the topic, and some of you might wonder that I'm the one who are giving you an introduction to a digital transformation of corporate business, because I'm not an expert in business organization. But I'm an expert in FinTechs or in finance. Don't worry, students, I'm not teaching now about futures, options, and whatever. I just give you, so you don't have to run away. I just give you an overview what I see in the FinTech sector, in the financial technology sector. And we see more or less a revolution which challenged totally the banks. And if you could assume that the financial sector is always running 1 year or 2 years ahead of the real economic sector, so what you see now in the financial sector, you could see probably coming in 1 or 2 years in the real economic sector. You could imagine there will be a radical change, or you could expect a radical change. Well, the financial sector is the front runner because it's much easier to trade money online. It's the most homogeneous product you could imagine. And it's anyway, money is virtual, so it's much easier. With the real economy, it takes somewhat longer because these products are more complex and they are physical. So let me give you just an introduction what I'm seeing in the financial sector with the FinTechs. I just would like to focus on 2 points on the FinTech sector, and then asking the question, if we are taking that as a blueprint, what could you imagine to see in the real economy sector to come? Well, most of you probably are not familiar with FinTechs, financial technology companies. So let me show you 2 prominent, there are hundreds now, there are hundreds of startups, and most of these are sitting in Estonia. So I'm very happy to have Estonia as a partner for our joint degree. Let I give you an example. First of all, funding circle. Well, I don't get extra money from them to advertise their page, but just it is the peer-to-peer, the most prominent peer-to-peer lender you have in UK. And UK is anyway the leading country for that. Peer-to-peer lending, it's crowdfunding, which means it's a platform. They collect from small investors the money, bundle it, and hand it out as a loan to the business. And they are very successful. Just see, they already lend out 1.6 billion British pound to business. Well, it's a different model. They are not taking the risk. They are just only the intermediate, meaning normally the bank is taking the risk, but here that platform is taking no risk. They are just spreading the risk to the investor, meaning you could invest here and you are taking the risk that the business is defaulting and you don't get the money back. Well, you are taking the risk, but you get a higher return, like it is in the financial sector. Risk and return are closely correlated. The students are smiling because I'm always telling them that story. So it's peer-to-peer lending. You could get loans up to from 5,000 to 1 million. The maturity is up to 5 years, and it's very fast, it's very convenient, because the corporates could apply for and they get the money within 2 or 3 days. It's convenient because they could do it over the weekend. Yeah, it's 24/7 business, meaning 24 hours for 7 days. And there's no early repayment fee. What does it mean, early repayment fee? If you go to a bank and you fix a loan contract for 5 years, and after a year you would like to cancel that contract, you have to pay an early repayment fee. Here you don't have. You could just take it and cancel it after a year. Okay, yeah. Let's go to, maybe that's one, it's peer-to-peer lending. We could have the same platform business. If we are speaking always about platform business, we could have the same with Transferwise. It's in Estonia, Estonian company, and they are transferring the money to a foreign country with a foreign exchange rate. And they promise you to make it 8 times cheaper than the banks are doing it. They are using the old Islamic banking system of having 2 buckets. They are not really transferring the money, they are just having only 2 pools in different countries, and if you would like to transfer, you invest here, and they pay it out there. Even if you would like to transfer a higher amount, they are searching for somebody in the other country, and they bundle small investors who would like to transfer in your country the money. That's platform business. They have a very nice video. While we have the students, and the students are used to not to read textbooks, they are used to have videos. So no, it's no. Let's see if I get some full medium tone. Now it should work.
Transferwise is up to 8 times cheaper than using banks.
Most banks and currency exchange companies will tell you their transfers are free, 0 commission, or really cheap.
It's simply not true. They add a markup to the exchange rate, which means you could be paying more than you should.
Transferwise is different. We're on a mission to make moving money fair and transparent.
By using the real exchange rate, like the one you see on Google, there are no sneaky hidden charges.
You pay the lowest possible fee, clearly shown up front.
It's smarter than the old world banking system and completely transparent.
Transferwise has bank accounts all over the world, linked together by our smart technology.
So, for example, if you want to send pounds to France, simply log on and pay in your pounds to Transferwise's UK account.
Then, Transferwise's French account sends euros to the recipient.
The money never actually crosses any borders.
We're shaking up the old system and changing how money moves around the world. Just as Skype has brought down the cost of calling and Airbnb lets us travel for less.
It's easy, fast, with bank-level security.
And some nice people to talk to in case you have any questions.
So there you have it. No tricks,
no hidden charges.
Just money transfer as it should be.
Okay. So what is these two? We have the peer-to-peer lender, we have the payment service provider, Transferwise. They are platform business. That's a disruptive, it's a different business model. They are just a web-based platform, and they are connecting the users. And all these interfaces to the users are software automated. They are working only a few people, and these interfaces, these links to the different users are based on software, and they are doing autonomously decisions. While the FinTech market volume is 4 billion now, 3 billion in UK, and only 1 billion in core Europe, 500 million in Germany. Unfortunately, because the regulation in Germany is very strict, and to be honest, well, I recently sat with them in the forum, they don't understand the business really. Well, however, but it's still small, but the annual growth rates are very high, 100%, so they double every year. And well, imagine interest on interest, you could imagine that it will become very big. Just to give you an idea, the platforms and banks, what is the difference? The banks are risk takers. They accumulate the risk. You deposit your money on a bank account and the bank on the asset side lend it out. They have all the risks on their balance sheet. The platform are taking no risk, while the normal platform operational risk, of course, but they are taking no risk, meaning they are spreading the risk. They are spreading the risk to the users. That's a total difference. The banks are risk takers. That's the reason why we have to regulate and we have to take care of them, that they are not defaulting. The platforms are much easier to regulate. Well, banks are, if you go to the city center of a bigger city, what do you expect to find? The highest buildings are banks. So they are typically brick and mortar solutions, very expensive, with a lot of well-paid employees. Now I could say it because I'm no more a bank employee, thanks God. So I blame my own bank. Well, the platforms are IT applications with a lot of intelligent software and a few people, I should say, a few intelligent people as well. Not only the software is intelligent. Well, if the banks are doing a credit assessment, they are focusing on the ratios and the balance sheets. And at the end, if you would like to have a loan from a bank, they invite you for a personal chat because they would like to have some idea about the personality of the borrower. And there's some subjectivity in. The platform don't invite you. The platform is just machine reading of your balance sheet, calculating the ratios, but they would like to have as well a substitute for the relationship banking, the personal impression. How do the platform is doing the personal impression? They are collecting the data from your Facebook account, from Amazon, from wherever they get the personal data. So they substitute the personal impression by a personal digital footprint. And they calculate the probability of default. And I checked the quality of that software risk assessment, credit risk assessment, and the default rates of that software currently is slightly higher, but not very much. It's slightly higher of those of credit analysts from the bank. So, and if you imagine that the software is self-learning and intelligent, and learning from failures, you could imagine that the quality at the end, the software will beat the credit analyst. The point is, the credit analyst, after 10 clients, the credit analyst is tired and goes home and sleeps well, hopefully. The software, it doesn't matter. 10, 100, it's scalable. It doesn't matter how many clients they are approving. So from an economic, well, that's it. On the one hand, it's good news. It's efficient. On the other hand, probably it's bad news. Credit analysts are middle management positions, well paid, well educated. Well, bad news. That's the lending side. If you go on the investment side, and you have to invest your money, you are walking to the bank and you get from your bank's asset manager some advice. That's nice. Now you have the protocols and whatever they have to fill. The platform is doing automatic bidding done by software. So with peer-to-peer lending, the main point is having a portfolio, not place all the money on one lender, on one borrower, so diversify the risk. You could do it easily if you invest 100 euros in total. You could do it with 5 euro slots. 5 euro slots. But it's a lot of work if I would do it manually. So the software on the web, from Funding Circle, I find a software agent, a machine, and I give that agent the order to invest it for me. Every time 5 euro slots with a different credit risk, and the machine is doing that for me. So the machine is investing my 100 euros, and during the day I receive emails, congratulations, you invested just 5 euros or 10 euros. So the software is doing the decisions for me automatically based on my order. The good thing is when it's a monthly annuity credit, which means I get monthly money back, interest and redemption. And the software, every time when I get the money back, the software is reinvesting without time loss. Yeah? You are not losing time. It's a circle. And I'm sitting at home and thinking, hey, it's investing my money. It is very convenient in some way. In some way, you don't know. Just see, banks are risk takers. They are working in a high regulation environment. Platforms are low regulation. The regulation is lagging behind. Bank business models are not scalable. Just think about the credit analyst. After 10 clients, he is tired. The software is never tired. They are scalable, which means it costs a lot to build up such a platform with all the interfaces automated and software-based. That costs a lot of fixed costs. But the variable costs of having one extra user are close to zero, which means the economic of scale impact, the effect, is much more pronounced with the platforms. They need large markets, a lot of clients, and quite often the organic growth path is too slow. They have to take over other platforms and other markets. Well, it's some inherent risk that they become a monopoly at the end, because it's zero cost model. An extra user doesn't cost extra. So they are zero marginal cost models and scalable. Well, most people are asking, could you earn money? Yes, you could earn money. Well, I don't recommend to do that, but the platforms are more efficient than the banks. The banks are standing in between. If you deposit the money, you get currently zero. And if they are lending, you have to pay, depending on your credit risk, 3, 4 or more %. Meaning the banks are earning by the interest rate margin. With the platforms, you are paying a fee, and the borrower and the lender could share the margin. So what are you earning is the nominal rate in the best rating, the lowest credit risk, the best rating is A+. It's from Funding Circle, 7.3%. You could assume that 0.6% of all your loans given in that category are defaulting. So you don't get the money back. So if you take the fee, additionally the fee is 1%. So based on the nominal minus the estimated loss minus the 1% fee gives you 5.7%. Assuming as an average rate, assuming you diversified your portfolio. Yeah, you have to diversify, that's the main point. Okay. So let us go, it's platform business, it's software-based automation of all stakeholder interfaces, meaning automation in bidding, the credit analysis. The platform is only facilitator, not a risk taker. Managerial decisions are done autonomously by self-learning software. It's like with now the automated driving. The software is doing autonomously decisions. It's just the same. And here we have it in the financial sector. It's scalable. The marginal costs are close to zero. And the economies of scale effect is much more pronounced. You need large markets with high numbers of users, and the organic growth is quite often too slow. Okay, that's what we are seeing in the financial sector. And probably the banks have to change. These fintechs will force banks to change their business model from risk-taking to no risk-taking in some way. And maybe it costs us a lot of jobs. And maybe some of these fancy skyrocket buildings in the city. That's what we are seeing in the fintech sector. So is it a blueprint for the real economy? I believe yes. Traditional corporates are risk takers. They are taking risk. So just corporation, they are creating value. How do they create value? They buy, well, it's very simple, but they buy today in T0, they buy input material. In T1, they are doing production and creating value, added value. They are doing that by using support functions like HR, finance, procurement, and marketing. It is all embedded in a hierarchy, in the management, in organization and government. That's in T1. And in T2, they are selling the output to customers. That's a typical risk-taking of traditional corporates, meaning they are buying already input material without knowing if they could sell the products at the end. That's risk-taking. They have employees here and invested in machines, not knowing exactly what they could sell in the market. And they have all on the balance sheet. It's like in the banking sector. Risk-taker having the loans on the balance sheet. Let's assume, how could we imagine would be that with a platform? How would a platform do the business? So value creation by a platform business, maybe you are starting not from that side, from the input, you are starting from the customer side. Thinking from the customer side, and the customer becomes more and more transparent. So with your big data analysis, and you are very free in spreading your personal information, probably we know at some point when you would buy a new car, a new mobile, or what your consumption is. We even may be able to forecast the color of your car because you are looking at or you're comparing prices on Google. So we know already what you will do, or we could forecast what you will do in the future. Probably. So we are starting here today with the output. Even with the new technique of crowdsourcing, the client could start to develop your product, could bring in new research. Normally in the traditional business, the engineers, well, Miele, for instance, in the traditional business, the engineers are creating new products with new innovations. And then the marketing guys are doing more and more marketing to convince the customers about the advantages of these new products. Maybe we start the other way around, and the customer are involved in the research and development process in a way of doing crowdsourcing. So we are starting from the customer, and that's old thinking, having a corporate. We have no corporate, which means we have a management platform, and they are organizing the business process. They are just organizing the business process, and we have different production places with Industry 4.0 concepts, meaning machine communication, and all these interfaces are automated and scalable, software-driven. And we have the procurement platform here. It's an isolated platform, and they are working for the management platform, but they are working as well for different ones. It's no more a corporate where the procurement, the marketing, and all the others are closely embedded. Maybe they are isolated. Maybe they are new corporates. Okay. At the end, you don't know if that's really a corporate. Or maybe the value chain is, before it was centralized, and now we have a decentralized network value chain with small, tiny corporations. It's scalable, it's standardized, automated interfaces, and spreading business risk. Spreading business risk means, well, it's labor on demand. Probably most of you don't like that. We have to think how we could regulate it. But they are spreading the risk. It's no more risk taker. But lower risk means lower return. Or those who are taking higher risk should have a higher return to be compensated. It's a different way of thinking. The main point is interface and process management at the end. Okay, and now we're coming to the final. So we see we will have new organizations and institutions and corporates. Probably they have a different business model like in banking. We need new regulations, rules, laws, standards, and success measures as well. Even in the accounting, there will be big changes concerning the balance sheets. New taxation and new social systems, that's the new world. And that's the old world, in quotations. It's traditional risk-taking, old business, existing laws and taxation, and we have to think, how could we get from the old world to the new world, or how could we make it more ethical? How could we make it more humanized? And at the same time efficient. And that's what we are talking probably today about that. Let's see. Thank you very much.